Hey everybody, so I'm coming to you today about, I'm going to talk about something that a friend of mine had mentioned that she told me that would really help me and I should look into, and that's cognitive behavioral therapy. And from my readings on it and the workbook and the MP3s that I got about it, the way that I see it and the way that, and the gist that I get is that cognitive behavioral therapy is all about realizing when you feel a certain way and then acting on it in a different way than the way that you usually act on it. Meaning when you feel the way you feel, you recognize that, and instead of going this way, which is to depressed town, which is depressed town, instead of going this way, you go the other way. Okay? Instead of automatically seeing and feeling that certain way and becoming all depressed about it, you go this direction instead, which is to think of something positive. And by any means, by no means, okay? By no means. I am the kind of person that am extremely comfortable. Right now I'm comfortable, I'm happy, okay? I'm alright right now. Tomorrow I could be a depressed wreck. Let me just throw that out there. In no way am I saying that someone can just, well, okay, well, we're good now. That's the whole thing about, at least for me, that's the whole thing about having a problem with depression and anxiety and even borderline personality disorder, like I have, besides my depression and my anxiety. It's, to me, I always get the idea that, well, I screwed up today because I feel completely freaking depressed, so therefore I fucked up and fucked today. Well, that's not necessarily, you may feel that way, but that doesn't mean, that one feeling doesn't define your whole day. And it shouldn't define your whole day. I always see it this way, for example. Imagine a circle, okay? In your head, imagine a circle. Now, around that circle, imagine a box, okay? Your goal that you want to achieve is that circle. The negativity of life, the chaos of life, is that square. Okay? Just because today is today and you tried something to get to that goal, which is in the middle of the square, and nothing worked, doesn't mean that tomorrow you'll come up with a different idea and that will work. It's all about punching through it or digging under it, not going over it. At least that's the way I look at it. You know, to me it's all about that goal is in the middle. The chaos and negativity of life is that square surrounding my goal. And you know, it can go a lot further than that. The peer pressure of life, okay? People, for example, just may not like you just because of how you dress, for crying out loud. I mean, for God's sakes, the society today has such an vivid, fucked up view on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, to the point where it's really seeped into the veins of society. And by that means, and I actually have a really good example for this one. I just recently finished making a punk jacket, okay? I have my heavy metal bands on the back, and I have a lot of punk groups on the front of it, okay? That I took a fabric marker and I made it look cool, you know, and it's got spikes and shit on it. It looks really awesome, and the jacket itself cost me 45 bucks at Hot Topic, okay? The rest of it I bought off of Amazon. Okay, but that's what I do. That's part of my coping skill, is to make jackets like that, or draw paint, take photographs are right, and that's what I do. Anyway, I was at work today, and when I was leaving work today, somebody at work, who I work with, didn't like my punk jacket. Okay? And as I'm standing there, she looks at me and she looks at this other guy who I also work with, and she looks at him and says, that's completely inappropriate. She looked at me because of what I was wearing and said, what I was wearing because of what was on my jacket was inappropriate. Aside the fact that I have a bunch of anarchist symbol, A for anarchist symbols on my jacket, okay? Whatever her reasoning, she felt that what I was wearing was inappropriate. Well, you know what? She has a right to her opinion. I will give her that. But is it inappropriate to express myself through what I wear? Absolutely not. Okay? Absolutely not. And I just, for the first time, I shrugged it off. It didn't really matter to me. When most of the other times, it would matter. I would have such a problem with it, and it would bother me. Okay? But today it didn't bother me. I actually giggled. I thought it was funny. I'm like, well, all it is fashion. It's me expressing myself through my clothing. That's all it is. Expression is not wrong. Through any form. Because you can do it through art, you can do it through music, you can do it through what you like. What I've just said is, you know, you can do it through what you wear. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is people have a lot of fucked up reasons for not liking somebody, because it's taken me a really long time to realize that just because I'm here and I was born and I'm in the world, I'm on this planet, in this country, just because I am all those things doesn't mean somebody's going to be accepting of me because I am. Because I'm just here, so to speak. Okay, people can dislike me because of what I like. What other people think was a big issue to me. It was a huge issue to me. Okay, my self-esteem even. Okay, that had a lot. That fed my anxiety a lot. Waking up going, well, if I wear this, people ain't gonna like it. Okay, it was all about what other people think. It wasn't about what I like. You know. And in no way am I sitting here saying that tomorrow I'm gonna not be a depressed wreck or an anxiety-ridden wreck. Okay, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if it does, that's because it's me. Those are the things that I struggle with. It's me. If people can't accept me because I have a good day today and then a really nasty bad day tomorrow, as hard as I try to pull myself out of that panic attack or anxiety or depressed hole, okay, or whatever, if people can't understand that and accept me for who I am as a human being, then those are not the people you want to be hanging around. Period. I mean, I have a friend of mine said something very true. For about the 1,000,000th time, I can sit here and I can say she's absolutely right. She's told me many times that going to Facebook to try to find somebody to talk to is not the cognitive correct way to fix the issue that I am having at that moment in time. Okay? She's right. Because in the moment, as she would put it, and as she said to me was, and this is without naming names, but as she put it to this is, some people on Facebook will help you simply because it makes them look good. My problem was I was completely overlooking that. I was overlooking that big time. You know, she's right. I didn't think of it that well. You need to think of it this way. Just because somebody is helping you doesn't mean that they care, because people are seeing and watching what is going on when people comment on your posts, to the point where people will sit there and give her him or her a pat on the head. Oh, that was nice of you to do. Simply because they just wanted the sympathy of, oh, this is a nice person because he or she helped someone. Okay? Not necessarily because they actually legitimately give a shit. Okay? And I was very naive in overlooking that. Okay? But that, to me, that's what it is. It's all about looking at that circle and the square, the negatives and chaotic shit that happens in life, with your goal in the middle and going, well, just because I did this, and this today to try to get under it, over it, or through that fence to get to my goal of the things I needed to do today, just because it didn't work today doesn't mean it ain't going to work tomorrow. And the reason that is because tomorrow is always a new day. And I can tell you firsthand, people that have a problem with feeling like shit and depressed all the time and have a very shitty self-worth don't necessarily think that, well, wait a minute, today was kind of crappy, okay? Because anybody who's depressed or has a bad self-worth can look at themselves and go, well, I have a crappy, I don't feel very well today, I'm very depressed. It's not very hard for us to sit here and say that, okay? One really profound thing that I can say, okay, is this. We need to get to a point, and I'll tell you, I may not be there yet, but eventually I will get to that point, because that is something that I want to be able to do in my lifetime. We need to get to a point where we can look ourselves in our own eyes, looking in the mirror and say, when do we get to the point where I can say I'm only human, and not have that bother us? Look in the mirror, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm only human. I am imperfect. I fuck up. I make mistakes, just like the perfect people, because let's remember, there are no perfect people. People that seem to us like they're perfect, but they're not actually perfect. They have a lot of fucked up things that happen to them. The only difference is they don't show it. And they choose not to. Okay? That's what the difference is. But we have to get to the point where we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, when do we get to the point we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, I'm only human, I'm an imperfect being, I make mistakes, and those mistakes don't need to define who you are as a human being and make your anxiety or your depression worse. Because trust me, I know that for some of you, it does make it worse. But let me tell you, as everybody has told me, you have to go through a little... It can't rain all the time. Yes, that's a Crow reference. But it can't rain all the time. It's true. Just because it's raining today doesn't mean it's going to be sunny and 80 degrees tomorrow. And I can say that now because I don't have a lot of issues with my brain at the moment. Tomorrow, I might have a lot of issues. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm all over the place. I'm like a freaking map, okay? I'm sitting here like you admitting that I fuck up and I have problems, just like you do. I'm here to let you feel a little bit better about yourself, knowing that there is somebody else out there that has the same fucking problem and issue you do. And I'm here to tell you that you're not the only person. Trust me. I know exactly how you feel. I know what you're going through. It's going to be okay. At this point in time where you are in your life, it might not feel okay. Okay? But always remember, with chaos comes order. And with order comes chaos. It's the reverse. With positive comes negative. And with negative comes positive. So just because you're feeling extremely negative and that depressed black blanket hanging off your back doesn't mean tomorrow you all of a sudden feel this joy inside of you to look at that issue, to look at your depression, and kick the motherfucker in the balls, okay? Because let's face it, that's what we have to be able to do. We have to get up when we've been knocked down, brush ourselves off, look at life, and say, fuck you, I ain't going anywhere, I'm still here. You're not going to get rid of me that easy. And trust me, I know exactly that that's easier to say than do. Trust me, I struggle in my own life to do that every day. Okay, but I'm just now on the cusp of being able to look at how I feel inside when something bad happens to me or somebody treats me in a negative manner and go, well, I acted very depressed, very angry at this person. Which is another thing, to show anger towards somebody, you're giving them the power. That's all you do when you show anger towards somebody else, is you give them the power. Because they have hence taken the negative from you and the power from you, and you just all of a sudden became exceedingly angry towards this person when you didn't need to be angry at all. You could have just looked at what they said to you, which is very offensive or made you angry, and went, I always get angry here. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, whatever. Trust me, I know that's not an easy thing to do. Just lately, I've been able to look at people that treat me. They know that I have a problem with depression and anxiety and BPD. They look at me and they go, this guy is a fucked up guy, okay? Careful, he might grab a gun and go nuts. That's how they treat me, okay? I mean, I would never ever do that. First off, I would never do that. But some people look at me that way, okay? They look at me like I'm nuts. I have to just shrug that off and go, well, they only see the surface. They don't see beneath of that, okay? It's like I used to say with goth people, for example. I have absolutely no problem with goth people. I had a lot of goth friends when I was in high school. They dress the way they do to keep motherfuckers away. In some cases, I dress the way I do because I don't want people around either. You know, and I would always sit here and say, well, people don't want to talk to me. They don't want to talk to me. This sucks. I want to talk to some... Well, my dumb ass is sitting here going, well, people aren't talking to me. Well, maybe it's because of how I'm treating them. That could be an issue. Could be how I dress. Could be how I dress. It's very true. Could be how I dress. I wasn't looking at the issue and saying, well, maybe they're treating me the way they're treating me because I'm treating them a certain way. I always fail to think about that, or fail to really get it souped up in my emotion when I'm thinking about that. You don't realize in the moment that it is the way it is, because I made it that way, because I chose to. We have control over how we choose to feel. We have control over how we choose to react to somebody else being negative to us. Change starts with us. It doesn't start... Every time I put on my Facebook that I want to talk to somebody, it's because I legitimately want to have a conversation with somebody because I want to get the shit off my chest. But in no way do I believe that that change starts with the person I'm talking to, because it doesn't. It starts with me. First and foremost, it starts with me. And like I said, always remember, you've got to be able to come to that point where you can look in the mirror and say, look, I'm only human, man. I'm only human, dude. I'm going to screw up eventually. But the question you have to ask yourself is, when you screw up and you make the mistakes that you make, are you learning from that? Because if you're not learning from your mistakes, you're not growing as a human being. At all. People learn more from making mistakes than they do actually doing things correctly. It's a fucked up thing, but it's true. We learn more in our failures than we do in our successes. Because how else would I get to the middle, that circle with the square, by making mistakes? Not only by making mistakes, but failing. You can't get somewhere without failing, because there is no such thing as, well, you have a goal, it's free. It doesn't work like that. Just as life and nature will always find a way, human beings, to achieve their goals, will always find a way. Because if one thing doesn't work, something else will. It may take an hour, may take a day, may take 10 years, but eventually it's gonna work. You're gonna get to the goal that you wanted to achieve from whenever you decided to go for that goal. Goals are therapy for the brain. That's another thing. I've seen that written down. Is dreaming and goals are therapy for your mind. Sitting and daydreaming about things is actually very good for you. it's a very positive, therapeutic way of thinking about life. To sit here and just doze off and think about things. It's good for you. That's why smiling is good for you. As much as you feel like shit, and I'll be the first to admit, if I feel like shit, I'm not smiling. But you know what? Smiling is what brings you out of feeling depressed. And that's what I was missing. I kept telling myself, well, I'm depressed. If I smile, I'm lying about how I feel. No, I'm not. I'm not lying about how I'm feeling, because smiling is a positive reaction to other people. Smiling pulls you out of feeling like crap. And that's what I was completely missing. It was going every time. But not anymore, because I realized it's funny how the simple things always smack you in the face first. It's always the things that you overlook that can become the biggest saviors to yourself. So, and that's just how I look at it. I hope this video finds you well. I hope that you really strive to go for the goals that you want to achieve in life. And I hope that you do it with love, kindness, and empathy in your heart. And always remember, you are not the only person walking this road of whatever mental illness you may have. You are not the only person doing that. You can be assured that I struggle just as much as you do. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, my YouTube page is open. Send me a comment, and I will reply as soon as I get it. Because I want to be able to be there for people that feel like I do. Because to be able to connect with somebody that feels like you do, or has gone through the same things you have gone through, says a lot about the other person. Namaste.